I want my company to be well set up with the IBC concept, because the sense of peace and freedom.
We're joined by the incredible Troy Treleaven, who is a corporate trainer, decades with the Dale Carnegie Organization in Canada, in the Ontario and the Maritimes environment. You know, when you plant corn, you're going to get something else, weeds. And if you don't take care of them weeds, pretty soon they'll take over your field.
Be skeptical. Skepticism is healthy, right? Like it's a good thing.
You can't learn how to control capital in an efficient way for the rest of your life as a lifestyle in 15 minutes. How exactly does the world of corporate training intersect with the infinite banking concept? Well, we're going to learn a little bit about that today. We're joined by the incredible Troy Treleaven, who is a corporate trainer, decades with the Dale Carnegie Organization in Canada, in the Ontario and the Maritimes environment, working directly with business owners, senior managers, department heads, helping coach hundreds of companies and thousands of leaders. We're excited about the conversation today because not only do you have an incredible background and experience, Troy, but you've now forged ahead in a new area of your life, which is incorporating Nelson Nash's infinite banking concept into it. And I think that there's this great overlap between what you recognize through all the work you've done, coaching companies and businesses, leadership training, and some of the things that resonate in both the language and the application of the infinite banking concept. So excited to have you with us on the podcast today.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to be here as well. It's my favorite topic currently is IBC, and I'm so happy to talk to you, and you guys have been such an influence. So it's been great. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
We appreciate it, and we had a chance to connect here recently, have a nice little powwow before we were able to book this session, and I'm just really intrigued. If you can maybe share with our viewers, walk us through how the concept kind of entered your life. You kind of mentioned it's your favorite topic these days, and it seems to be entering conversations by default. So
Yeah.
let's rewind the tape a little bit and get to the
Sure.
point. Like, where did this even become something that you were deciding to look into in the first place?
Okay. Yeah. Well, it really was as recent as the spring, and my brother and I, we have coffee together. He lives in town where I live, so every week or so we get together in the morning for coffee. And towards the end of one of our conversations, he goes, "Have you read this book?" And it was like, I can't probably see it, but if that one. And I go, "Isn't that like something that like I said I've heard of it, but I said I'm really not." Sure. And I remember years ago, back, I think I was, oh my gosh, this should be back in, I think before my kids were born. So my daughter was born in 2006. So it was probably 2005. And I saw something online about how you could do your own bank, right? But I remember at the time calling up a friend at Canada Life who I worked with. And I said, "Hey, do you know anything about like, you can borrow from like an insurance policy or something?" He goes, "Well, yeah, but like it's really expensive." What are you talking about? And anyway, I didn't. I just left it. And so anyway, so in the spring, my brother says, "Have you ever read this book?" I go, "No, I haven't." Well, I got in my car as I was leaving, and I went on to I think a Grok, and I said on Grok, because I had the voice thing. I go, "Tell me about IBC Infinite Banking Policy, Nelson Nash." And because I couldn't read the book while I was driving over back to my house. And so it started explaining it. And I go, "Oh, this is cool." And then I dug into the book, and I think I'd had it read within 3 days. And I and then I started going online, and then I found like a whole bunch of videos on it, and then I found Ascendant, and then checked in, and then I got talking to some of your people, and so that was my first introduction. So,
Wow,
and
amazing.
since then it's just been crazy, but been fascinating for many in my sphere, right? So,
Right.
yeah. So,
Well, I love the first of all. So shout out to your brother for obviously thinking enough of you to mention the book. He must have got the copy somewhere, so that's kind of cool. And you guys are probably
yeah,
forging ahead a little bit. Kind of obviously meeting for coffee regularly. You're kind of co-learning and embracing this a little bit. I'm guessing along the way. Is that am
yeah.
I getting that correct?
Yeah, totally, totally. Well, Jeff, like, he's been like in pharma sales a lot of his life, and
Mm.
and he and I always talk, business and money, and he's worked with me like off and on, like in coaching and that kind of thing. And so we always are sharing ideas about money and investments and things we've done over the years. And we've done real estate projects together and things like that. And so, yeah, money comes up a lot with family. And yeah, we got talking about that. And so, yeah, so now that's every time we're together, we're always talking about that. And yeah, so he's very much into it. So, yeah.
Very cool. I love that. That's a great kind of a bonding almost area for you guys to continue a really cool part
Yeah.
of your relationship. Now, you mentioned that, of course, you had a little bit of we talked before we hit the record button about the Colby Index. You mentioned that you also are an initiating quick start like I am. So that
Yeah.
explains why when you got to your car, you had to get Grok to assist you so that not only could you be on the road driving and doing something, you could be filling your brain with what was most current in your mind. So it's kind
Right,
of cool
right.
that sounds like Grok gave you some interesting pointers that wanted you to get further. And then then your next step was that you kind of went to, Uncle Google and you started typing in
Of
some stuff, and that led you to YouTube, because YouTube and Google, kind of the whole combination there.
course.
And so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
probably saw a lot of different things.
yeah,
And at some point you circled towards, the ascendant kind of sphere. What
yeah,
would you say took place between, first kind of Google entry to eventually landing on like an ascendant video? What happened in
yeah.
between?
Well, the getting on the YouTube videos was like you get a lot of stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of, I think, American stuff. There's lots of different combos you see people talking about online and things like that. And I said, well, I definitely want Canadian. Like, does it work in Canada? Like, that was my first thing. And so I think searching Canada, like, obviously Ascendant comes up. I think you're the preeminent player. And so I said, well, that definitely is want to start. And so yeah, so, but I like spent, I probably deep dived on it very much for a bunch of days in a row. And, but yeah, the Ascendant stuff came up, most credible, wasn't hyped, but was, I think the integrity I saw, like,
Hmm.
uh, going back to Nelson Nash, his name comes up everywhere. But you guys seem to have the most credibility from everything I was seeing related to that. And so I said, well, I'd rather go to the source than just kind of like Dale Carnegie is my company. So Dale Carnegie is like, go to the OG, right? And so that's kind of, I think why I probably weighed Ascendant. It was one that emerged first anyway. So that was
Right.
the one that I really wanted to
Well,
talk to, at least.
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, really, the fact that you've spent such a career time frame with the Dale Carnegie Organization and everything that happens there, and like you mentioned, the OG. I mean, he's so well known, even though he's long gone. The legacy left behind, and so in a similar light, that's kind of where Nelson Nash is, at least to our
Mhm.
micro community, and we're looking to expand that. So I think
Mm.
there's an automatic kind of bridge there between what was already true for you and going on in your life, because I'm sure you've been to corporate events or training events where there's people doing things that are almost kind of, you might say, out of the Carnegie playbook a little bit, but maybe
Oh,
not
100%.
providing homage to the person who really was the pioneer of that work,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, no, that's like Dale Carnegie was 1912 when it first started. When he started as like training business, well, in those days, businessmen, because it was just how it was, and then it it was on public speaking, and he quickly realized that it wasn't speaking these people wanted; it was confidence that came from
Mhm.
speaking. And it was, how do I make my ideas clear when I'm trying to sell something or lead my team? Or so he very quickly evolved the program, um, and then he started growing. Started in New York City, and then it spread all through North America and then across the world. And so, yeah, so everybody probably got their start. Like all the big names you've ever heard about have done a Dale Carnegie, like Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and all those guys. And Nelson Nash, I noticed in Warehouse of Wealth, he did the course. And
Yeah.
so it's like kind of in the DNA, if like How to Win Friends, Influence People, the book he wrote in 1936, that came out of listening to thousands of people in the courses, like
Hmm.
for since 1912 to 1936. So it wasn't like he had a theory or something. Let me test this. It was more like he just heard this works with people. This works leading people. building rapport and all that. And so it became like the kind of the heart of everything. So everybody you see today quite often had their roots in Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
So our course is still very unique. Like it's really hard to duplicate for lots of reasons, and whether I talk about it today or not, but it's really unique in that still can't be duplicated, which is unusual. So
Look, we want your family to have more money. That's our goal. That's our job. At Wealth on Main Street, our goal is to have you keep as much of that hard-earned capital where it belongs, with the people you love and care about. Easy way to do that, pick up a copy of this book, Don't Spread the Wealth. This book is all about keeping the money in the family. Think of it like an aquarium. The money never leaves, and you can use it and reuse it as many times as possible. Go ahead and pick up a copy today at don'tspreadwealth.com.
I agree. Like, having spent a fair amount of time with Nelson before he left us, he was a very unique and very prominent individual, commanding a room from a speaking leadership perspective. But he did it with such a joy and an integration with the room. It was really kind of wonderful to be a part of and experience. And I suspect that, yeah, a lot of that came from things he learned on in his youth. And Nelson, he would tell a story about when The Strangest Secret came out by Earl Nightingale.
yeah.
And he had, the I can't remember, it was a record, I think, that he got
Yeah.
originally. And
Yeah.
he said he wore that thing out. And he was at a
Oh,
point where he had it completely memorized, and like he just
powerful.
had it on repeat the whole time. And so
Jeez.
earlier in his life, he was really trying to build up those skills and that knowledge base and stuff. And he would always joke. He says, "Well, it's not entirely true that you can become whatever you think about all the time, because if it were really 100% true, then men would become women." That was a line
That's
that he would
great.
use every once in a
I
while
love
in
that.
one of his sessions, right? So,
Oh,
no,
that's
it
great.
was so much fun to
Yeah.
kind of be around him. And so I do think that there's this cool overlap, and there's
Mm,
something about what's within the roots. It's kind of like what you
yeah.
indicated, what's the roots and the core of the Carnegie Organization, and how everything
Mm,
stems from these pioneering ideas. And then it's also a grassroots expansion of a leadership concept that's really, again, globally now, all over the place. And so
yeah.
similarly with Nelson, that the subtitle of his second book is a grassroots method of, I think it's ending the, of result of fractional reserve banking, or something, like ending
Oh,
fractional reserve
right.
banking.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So building your warehouse of wealth. And so Nelson really believed that this process that we're embracing, and that you and your brother and your family are now embracing,
Mm,
is a way to be personally profitable,
mhm,
protected, and to
mm,
separate yourself from a system of kind of overt control around the monetary supply, so that you
right.
were rooted in this individualistic area that allowed you to be part of the solution versus part of the problem. And the problem specifically we're talking about here is manufacturing of the money supply, which happens in the commercial banking sector. Not to go down a
Right.
fractional reserve
No, it's
rabbit hole, but
it's
our
one of
listeners
the
are already familiar with that. So
right. Okay. Yeah. No, it obviously resonated for all those reasons because yeah, I think it's, as you said, like an individualistic mindset, like a freedom kind of mindset. Like this is how do I become free of the um we don't see it, right? You can't see the problem right until you see it. And then so I found it was just synced with everything that I believe and everything I care about. And as an entrepreneur, like I think I've heard this in other of your videos, other entrepreneurs saying, I think I get it faster than the average person because
mm,
when you run a business, like you really see the value of having access to capital when you need it. And it's always so expensive. And as a business owner, my whole career, like it's always been so hard to, get access to money from a bank or something. I haven't been an employee, right? So it's like always like, "Man, could it make it easier?" And um, but I totally missed out on how much money over the years I'm putting to banks and finance companies,
mm,
um, and COVID was super hard for us, right? Like
yeah, an
as soon
events
as
based company,
yeah,
training events.
exactly.
Yeah.
We had to leave hotels where we were running classes and stuff. We had to go right online, and it hurt. It hurt us. Like we weren't fully prepared. We made it through, thankfully, and we did have to take some things from the government that we've paid back, thankfully, but I would never want to have to go through that again. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, I really I want my company to be well set up
Mm-hmm.
with the IBC concept. And I want my clients who are business owners and senior leaders and the everyday person to know about this, because the sense of peace and freedom. I
Mm-hmm.
was just saying to my brother, actually, we had coffee this morning, and I said, I got to tell you, like, I've had such a sense of financial peace
Mm-hmm.
since starting my policies, uh, and it's just going to increase as things go on and on. And so, yeah, yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't know how we got there exactly. Yeah,
Nelson would always say it, what a peaceful, stress-free way of life it is when you get the banks out of your life.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. So,
and
so
and it's interesting. There was this experience that, I mean, I wasn't there, but he would tell a story. He went to, I think it was Austria, and he was going to an Austrian economics event with the Mises Institute or something.
okay.
And this was, he actually went with another colleague of ours, James Nethery, who was there, who has the Banking with Life podcast. Shout out to James, amazing guy. I love James. And they were in the hotel lobby, like having their coffee in the morning with their continental breakfast or whatever they had. And over the previous night on the news, on the TV, it was talking about like this massive meltdown from the financial markets during the global like financial crisis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Nelson just sat
2008.
there sipping his coffee. Huh? Last night my cash values went up. That was the summary of the statement. Like, what more do you need
Right.
to say? And
Right.
so that is a peaceful, stress-free way of life when you know that
Yeah.
that's the it's a not it's not a wish and a hope and a prayer. It's a reality.
Right. 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 It's funny you said that, because just moments before we got talking today, I was checking stocks, and this will make this that who knows what will happen by the time somebody's watching this, but it was today the S&P hit its highest level, and I thought to myself, I go, you know what, my policy hit the highest level today as well, and tomorrow it will be, and then tomorrow will be another one. And so I laughed at it, because usually in the old days I would have looked, say, oh, where are the stocks today? And oh, I was up and down. And getting older, I realized, okay, I know they're going to come back eventually. That's at least the theory has always been
What they
true
say.
so far, but I wouldn't be too. But it's unlike anything else having a policy like this, because it's just better and better and better every day. And that's not like, I didn't think the real world was like that. And so when I found the concept, it was like, no, this can't be right. My wife, and she's going, are you sure? Like, and so it took a while for us to both get our heads around. Yeah, it's legit. But it takes it's not normal. And nobody I've talked to before knew anything about this. So
Right. Right. Well, they won't be saying that 2 weeks from now, because you're not holding the information in. You're making sure that you're spreading the word a little bit. So
I want people to know. Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, so you want to keep the wealth in the family. I get it. I hear you. Me too. That's why we wrote this book, Don't Spread the Wealth. Everyone tells you that you want to spread the money, spread the wealth around. No. You don't want to do that. You want to keep the money in the family with the people you love and care about, where it belongs, for as many generations as possible. That's what we talk about in this book. In this book, we have an incredible 15-page bonus you can download, which instructs you on how to start the conversation with your family on annual family banking meetings, how to host them, some sample exercises, and a sample agenda. Tons of amazing, great benefits. Go ahead, get a copy right now. Head on over to Don't Spread Wealth. That's don'tspreadwealth.com. Don'tspreadwealth.com. You're going to love it.
Now, circling back to your experience. So you did some of the initial work, the education. You got the book. You read the book. Grok summarized it for you. You got some YouTube videos in. Yeah, I like how you said you went deep for like 3 days, which for everyone else, that's like the equivalent. So a quick start going deep for 3 days is like the everyone else going deep for like a month in essence,
Okay, sure.
in time equivalency.
Sure.
And then eventually you got connected to a member of our team. So you get to work with the amazing Liz Wall, who's an
Mhm.
unbelievable, everybody, she's just absolute heart of gold.
She's amazing. Yeah.
And so you were able to get connected with her on our team. And so walk us through, like, what was the experience like from your vantage point, having so many years, decades in business, dealing with
Yeah.
business owners exclusively and leadership
Mhm.
style. I'm just curious, what did you recognize and notice about the process that you kind of went through to eventually get on the other side where
Sure.
now you're embracing this concept and you're actually able to start participating in it?
Yeah. Well, the first step, as I remember, professionally booked an appointment with me, right? And so my wife and I, we got on the call with Liz, and she said, "So how did you discover it?" And what got listened carefully to what we were saying, and uh, and I was at that point going, "Okay, so like, do you got like a form for me to sign or something?" And she
Yeah.
goes,
I'm
"Well,
ready to
first thing,
go.
yeah, I know I'm ready to go." And she goes, "Well," she says, "Have you?" Have you read the book? I said, "Oh, yeah, I read the book." And I said, I watched a ton of videos too. She goes, "Well, something about like, no, this was before even she got us to like figure out our finances and stuff. It was the meeting before. Oh, she said, have you watched Nelson Nash's um,
Documentary film.
documentary?" And I said, "No." I said, "But sounds good." And so that Friday night, my wife and I, we turned on YouTube, we're watching it. And one of my daughters comes home and her and her boyfriend go, "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, we're watching this video on Nelson Nash on a Friday night. We're loving it." And right, it was like, "You guys are nerds." And I go, "No, we really like it." And and my wife was going, "This guy's like got great integrity and all this kind of stuff." And so it was like really good for me because I need her on side
Yeah.
for ideas like this. And so yeah, so she was really all in. And then I think the next time we told Liz that, and we said, "Can you send us a few more videos? We want to like fill up our Friday and Saturday nights with some boring, right?" But so she kept loading us up with videos. But then I think it was a meeting or two later, she got us to look at our situation, our financial situation, where we had
Mhm.
debt and where money was going and all that kind of stuff. And then carefully analyzed it with us. And then later on, like it was not like I kept waiting to say like, "Okay, can we like sign? Like where, how do I put my money down?" But it was like a very much zero pressure and but still very compelling. Like it was like I felt like I wasn't definitely not being rushed. It was very methodical in that we want this to work right for you. This has to be
Mm,
customized to your life. There's not one
mhm.
size fits all, which I thought there might be. Like isn't there just a, and so she made it very clear to us. And then I got starting with two policies. So the first one, I have a corporation that I
Yep.
own my shares in my Dale Carnegie Corporation. That's another.
Mhm.
And so we did one on that, and then we did one in our personal self, and so that was good. And yeah, so that's kind of how we moved into it. So that was
Got it. And then once you went through the application process and the approvals and all that sort of stuff, got your first kind of premium paid, then you had an opportunity to now kind of step into we'll call it the next phase of your journey, which is where the real learning begins. And so what were some of the things that you recognize you started to get access to or were able to tap into once you kind of got into that zone where now you actually have a policy and you're ready to
yeah.
hit the ground running?
Oh yeah, I was psyched. So I went to the portal, and the portal, uh, the Ascendant customer portal is like amazing, and it's got like it's like a candy store of ideas and inspiration. And it's funny, one of your videos on how to track your policy, I don't know what you call it, but
Yeah. Doing the
so
amortization and everything, setting up, that.
it was the one. Actually, yeah, okay. So I think a few days in, I did apply for a loan, right? So right, and
Yeah.
I got it, obviously. And so I used it and I moved it into some things I needed to move it into. But then no, it was the one about where you uh, so you look at your like on the Equitable site where the values are, and you
Yeah.
plug in the values, and so daily you see where your uh,
Yeah. How your
policy is
cash
stand
is
cash
growing and
value.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the loan availability and everything. And so I still like do that religiously. I bet I'm going to stop it soon, but every day it's like the way I start my day as I go and I update myself just because it's so cool to watch, uh, like I say, it's every day, it's growing every day. And again, seeing that and it's just a great practice. And so the whole portal has been great because I'm looking forward to doing some, creative things around ways to use the policies and
Mhm.
ways and investments I can make, and um, want to do different types like hard money lending, do some more real estate, even you know. T- some dividend paying stocks. Jason did a
Mhm.
great video around that. And so things like that, like I really like seeing. Um, and then it was like became more clear. I think it was reading, it was, it was one of your books, I think Canadians Guide to Wealth Building Without Risk. I really started opening actually, it was before I read it, but this made it come clear to me.
Mm,
My wife and I really got the idea of family banking. And so
right.
that was like how could we now get our kids, we have 4 kids, and so how do we now set them up, and they're all young adults, like they're all
Right.
and so um like 18 to 23, and so how do we help them? And so now it's like even more purposeful, if that makes sense. Like it's like
Mm,
now it's about how do we make sure that we building this warehouse of wealth that we can all share and help each other out. And yeah, I got some years left, of course not, but in terms of them, they got so much. And I just want them to have that peace of mind that I never had through those all those years. They're going to have it. They don't even know they need it yet, but they're going to definitely benefit from what we're setting up and what they're going to continue to grow and all that. So that family banking part of it was not the initial draw, but I think
mm,
now it's the goal, it's the purpose, it's the spiritual part of it in a way. Like it's like
right.
there's a bigger thing leading this, right? So bigger than
It's
us.
got
That's
you
cool.
more connected to the activity of the doing
I
because
think
of the
that's it.
value of what the doing creates for everyone around you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
well said. Yeah, yeah.
But
How would you like to see a 91-year case study that we put together to explain how this infinite banking thing can work for a family over 2 generations? Well, you know what? Real easy to do that. We have that right in our second book, Cash Follows the Leader. You can get a copy for free delivered right to your inbox. Head on over to cashfollows.com. That's cashfollows.com and pick up a copy right now.
it's interesting. There's a couple of things that you mentioned. Obviously, watching the documentary film. Thank you for mentioning the documentary film. If anybody wants, you can go to Nelson Nash Film. That's nelsonnashfilm.com, and you can watch that there. It's only 1 hour long. And so I always would say that Nelson is the wife whisperer, right? So in a spousal situation, if someone's on board and someone's not on board, because when somebody got the book and did the grok request before. So we always encourage people to sit down and watch with your spouse that documentary, because it doesn't explain how the concept works necessarily, but it does explain you how it got created, and
Mm,
why it's important, and how Nelson was as a human being around people. And so, just to tell you a quick story, Troy, for me,
mm,
it's hard
mm.
for me to watch that without tearing up, because other than I miss Nelson, but also there's a scene where he's signing books, and he's actually signing the book to my daughter in
Oh,
that
wow.
video, in the documentary film. It's
Amazing.
it's it's her name right in the book, and so I have that book. My
Oh,
kids both know, they have a signed copy of the book from Nelson. They know who
wow.
Nelson is. My
Yeah.
son met him when he was 6 months old. I have pictures with Nelson and my son,
I think I've seen
but
them. Yeah. They're
they
cute.
they they aren't going to get that experience, but they know he's important, and they know the book is important, and they know they have one. They also know they won't get it unless they prove that they understand what's in it. So it's set aside for them, but they're not going to get it unless they do certain things. They don't
Mm,
even know what those things are. It's not like there's a list of stuff that I've got a checklist necessarily. I have
mm,
some of it up here, but it's about helping them be connected to what we want that family unit to be like when it
uh,
comes to the cycle of our money rolling through the family environment. I think that's really kind of what you're talking about, that resonation of the family banking
yeah.
model. And then,
Yeah.
additionally, you talked about, of course, all the resources available in the Ascendant, membership site, and you
Mm,
highlighted on a couple. but there's this continual, it's kind of like a buffet menu. So sometimes you show up to the buffet and you're like, oh man, like we got the salad bar, we got this over here, we got an ice cream machine. Like there's all
Yeah,
these,
the deep
it's
fried
the
shrimp.
bonanza, right?
Yeah.
All this stuff here. And you want a little bit of everything. But the key thing is you get to choose. Do you
Right.
want the healthy stuff? Do you want the not so healthy stuff? Do you want more sauce? And so that's kind of what the Ascendant membership site is like.
Mm,
The podcast and the Bankers Vault channel, we got a lot of content and it can be overwhelming for some people.
mm,
But you get to, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you get to chip
yeah.
away at your own schedule. Now, you
Mm,
would have received probably when you got set up a 12-step guide to getting started. Do you remember getting an
mm.
email with something like that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
And,
do.
and, and it kind of walks through the first 7 steps you do in like 30 minutes. It's like setting up your bank account,
Mm,
the basic things.
yeah.
But then it kind of walks through a recommended learning path for the first 90 days. And then it kind of gets, okay, here's the next 6 months. And says you need to be committing, about 2 hours a month roughly to your learning, at least in this
Mm,
time frame. And
mm,
then, that's sort of the idea. And it's all about continual and constant growth. I think very connected to that same Dale Carnegie leadership model. Like we're always growing, we're always curious. And that's one
mm,
thing I really appreciate about you, Troy. You're a very curious guy. I can tell you like
mm,
to learn things. There's an
mm,
excitement
mhm,
around learning. So there's so much potential ahead of us. And there's the things you're going to learn about the concept that I won't even know because it's going to
mm.
be unique to you. And you're going to share that amongst your family. And then when we have our quarterly group coaching sessions, have you attended one of those yet, by the way?
Not yet. No, no.
Okay.
I can't
So
wait though.
those are great. So make sure you get on one of
Oh
those.
wait, a quarter. That's like on a Saturday. I've
Yeah. One of the Saturdays usually.
online. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Not in person yet, but
But
the online ones. Yes,
the
I've
on
been
one,
to.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
and
I
so those
love
are
it.
fun because you get to
Yeah.
see other people, you get to connect, and there's questions asked. The chat box just goes like
Oh, it's
bananas,
amazing. Yeah,
and
yeah.
and there's good questions or good interaction. Sometimes, if we have enough time, we do some like breakout rooms in the Zoom where you can get in
Oh,
smaller
cool.
groups and ask about, you get to have a chance to connect with one another, and so there's a bonding experience that happens there. And when you're embracing Nelson's concept, and then you walk into a room and all of a sudden you start talking about whole life insurance, like you can very quickly be ostracized on the outside of the circle
Sure.
of the
Yeah.
group of people. So you don't want to be a lone ranger, and that's part of
Right.
why we want to embrace bringing people together in as many environments
Mm,
as we can, so that we're able to be connected around not just the same language but the same elements that we're all embracing. We might have different financial makeup, different financial challenges, but we're all trying to control the banking process as it relates to our
mm,
needs. And that's really what binds us together. And then doing something of value for the people we love and care about, which is our family.
yeah. No, that's so true. I've also found value in the lunch and learns on Fridays. I've
Fridays,
been
yeah.
to a few of those, or I watch the recordings of them, and it's every time, like as you said, like a new insight goes. Oh my gosh, you can do that with it. You can do that with it, and it's truly the infinite thing. Like um, yeah. I don't want to say it again, but it's just so much in it that you never get on I still, I'm so early. I look at somebody like you've been doing this for so long, the things you uh, would have an understanding about this. But yeah, that's what I want my kids to see, is that you're gonna have so many choices as you use this and think about this, and getting my kids to read the books. Little challenging sometimes because they go boring, but I said, well, okay, watch this video first, and then let's talk through the book as we go through and show them the illustration of like a student or something. And this is what, if you put your money in this instead of that, it will what it'll create for you.
That's one of the reasons we put pictures in our first two books, so that we could,
Uh,
you had different ways of learning. It was a little bit shorter. It's not replacing Nelson's book. It's just
no.
like, here's a different way of assessing the information, and maybe a shorter package, couple of
Yeah,
visuals to help see not only some of the
sure.
problems in the world, but like how solutions can be those things.
It's great.
And that was kind of the intention of those. So I'm really proud of those. And of course, our most recent book, shout out to Growing Your Own Capital with my
Mm,
man Dan Allen, which we launched just recently. A lot of great feedback we're getting from that book already. And
can't
while
wait to
it's
read it.
written for farmers and ranchers, all of the elements of it are still the same. It's actually very good to just take the word farmer and rancher out and insert business owner,
Okay.
because the same elements really do apply quite effectively there.
I'm looking forward to getting that one for sure. And yeah, I love the idea. I think I heard Nelson talk about uh, cow chow. And he's,
You got to be growing your own cow chow.
yeah.
That was the inspiration for our book. That was literally, that one line was the inspiration for the whole book
Is
and the
that
title of
right?
the book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
I,
cool.
I remember, so when that little clip that you saw, when that was recorded, I was in the room for that.
Oh,
And
wow.
because we were recording for the documentary film, and that scene was recorded in David Stearns's house. We had to come and move all the furniture around, and we had cameras set up and stuff. It was such a cool. We recorded there for, I think, 3 days, and then we recorded some at the Sheraton Birmingham Hotel, and then we recorded in Nelson's house, in his office, and I think we hit one other location. And so, the documentary film is 1 hour, and it's got a ton of stuff in it. And then there was this whole treasure trove of other stuff that never made the film, because you have to, cut it down. And so, thankfully, and we're extremely grateful for David Stearns of the Nelson Nash Institute, Carlos Lara, and Lee Berenger, who now is Nelson's granddaughter. She works now with them as well. Is that we were able to, they were agreeable, and we were able to coax all that stuff out and start getting it pushed out onto YouTube. So all that content that was sitting there for 5 years of Nelson is now available, and it's all these bits and pieces that we recorded that never kind of made the final film are all available. And it just warms my heart to know that I can go and watch and reconnect with Nelson in that moment in time, and 24/7.
Yeah. Oh, that's got to be a treasure. Yeah. You see, I know the clips you're talking about that weren't in the original movie, but I'm seeing them a lot. And then how much, I don't know how long you guys must have interviewed, or how many times. Like, was it that one time mainly, or was it like many
So
times, or how did it?
we went down to Birmingham for a week,
Huh.
and I mean we basically recorded for 5 days, maybe not straight, but we were recording for 5 days. We probably spent 3.5 4 hours at maybe 5 hours at Nelson's house. We did 3 days at David's house. Those were, like 5 6 hour days of recording. Now the tapes weren't running 100% of the time, but they were running for like 2 hour blocks, because Nelson would just go. He wouldn't get up and stop. He would just keep going. He would just want someone to bring him a coffee. Like, other than that, he would just keep going. He would say, "Well, all right, what's next?" He would do the next thing. He was a machine that way.
We want you to understand the 5 strategies that you can use to reduce taxes now and in the future. In fact, we wrote about them in our book, Keep Taxes Away from Your Wealth. You can get a copy of Keep Taxes Away from Your Wealth by going to keeptaxesaway.com. That's keeptaxesaway.com. Ease on over there, get a copy today.
And you just never knew what he was going to say. He kept things very consistent, and he never deviated from his message. But it was in what we refer to as Nelsonisms, where it was part of like inflection points, but also just the little, almost what you would call like throwaway jokes, where he would just insert something in. But when he did it, it also made like a new point. It was like a new connection point to elevate what he was discussing at that time. So the idea of growing your own cow chow is like, you guts to be growing your own cow chow, because, if we were farmers and you had cattle and you weren't growing your own cow chow, I was buying my cow chow on the open market, you'd laugh me out of the coffee shop. Right. So he would make these kind of connection points. And, he used it. He would always say this, that, he was sending books out to people in, the last he would always send books, but in the last year of his life, he had a lot of them. He was extremely well read, and you would all of a sudden get a book in the mail from Nelson.
Wow.
And I mean, he wouldn't send it himself, but he would ask someone to send a book.
Sure.
And usually came with a little note. And I remember the last one I got from him, I remember I was driving. It's interesting. I was still living in Sherwood Park on my acreage, and I was driving to the community of Sherwood Park, and I was driving past some fields. And so there was cattle in the fields, and there was some grain or whatever. And I'm driving by having this conversation on the road with Nelson about the book. And he says, "Well, Richard, I'm just finding high quality seeds, and I'm looking to plant them in fertile soil. And I think you're fertile soil." And that's how he would make points about stuff. And he says, "Well, when you plant corn, you're going to get something else, weeds. And if you don't take care of them weeds, pretty soon they'll take over your field. But if you do take care of the weeds, the corn stands out like a sore thumb." You know, and he would say, so you gotta make sure you're keeping an eye out for all the weeds. He was talking about mental weeds. How are
Oh
you
yeah, right.
cultivating and pulling the mental weeds that build up in your life?
Right.
Now, if that
Yeah.
doesn't have a little Dale Carnegie stitch to it attached, right?
Sure. Oh yeah. No, it's all about it starts with your mind, and we have something called the cycle of development, and it's if you're going to improve yourself, you got to start with your mindset, your attitude. Do you see the need to change? Do you want to change? Do you think you can? Right? Then knowledge, right? If you have your attitude right, the soil is right, the knowledge can be the seed, and if you implement it and practice it and water it and nurture it, it'll grow. Like it's predicted to grow. It's going to grow like in
Mm-hmm.
almost every case. And then you'll get the result, and then you can keep replanting the new seeds that come out of it. And yeah, I find that's tremendous. My brother and I's grandfather was a dairy farmer, and I remember as a kid back in the 70s, he built these two big silos, and they were the biggest in the area at the time. Harvest store, I remember, and but he was this real great business mind, and I wish I could talk to him now about why
Mm.
he did it at the time. I didn't appreciate it, but that was his thing. He'd lots of land, and he'd take um, all the feed and put it in there, and he did really well. He became very wealthy because of just good common sense. Recycle your own cow chow rather than buy from the market. So yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because so in the new book, Growing Your Own Capital, we literally use an example about the family grain bin. And this all kind of stems from again, shout out to Dan Allen, who's really the primary core writer of this book.
Hmm.
And the idea of the family grain bin, why do farmers have a grain bin? Well, or the silo. Well, it's so that you can take this large harvest, whatever it is, you can stockpile and store it and
Hmm.
protect and preserve it. You're protecting it from like vermin, the elements, all these things. So you're protecting it. And then you need it stored so that when the time is right, you can use it. Now, you might store it because you can't sell it in the open market right now
Hmm.
because it's a bad market time. Market price is low. So
Right.
you're
Yeah.
actually going to sacrifice the family and the whole harvest if you sell it at a discount price. You might have to sell a little bit, but if you can stockpile a whole bunch, that market price is going to come back up. Now you
Hmm.
can go throw it out in the grain truck and you can drive it out and sell it on the market. So you can
Yeah.
control the timing of when you do things when you have a proper storage facility, a warehouse, right? That's really what
Awesome.
the grain bin is. And then
Yeah.
and then additionally, that grain bin you fill it, but then it's going to start draining down. Okay. So you can use it for your own feed, for your own animals, on your own farm purposes. Okay. So you can use it yourself. You can sell it on the open market. You
Love
can
it.
control the
Love it.
timing. When are you going to use it?
Wow.
When are you not?
Hmm.
It protects what's inside from
Hmm.
the elements. It's efficient, etc. But now it's draining because you use it. Well, eventually it's going to empty. Well, if it empties, you
Hmm.
can't use it anymore. So you have to
That's
make
right.
sure you're putting more in. You gotta refill it from the top. You got to get the hopper
Right.
going. You got to put some more in there.
That's
So that
right.
is
Oh,
the
I love it.
cycle of capital flowing through the family's life. And
Mm,
so we have
I
the
love
family
it.
grain bin now. And that's really another reference point. Again, this whole model, it stems from Nelson. He maybe didn't isolate it or iterate it that way, but we're just taking what he's given us and we're putting a new analogy attached to the thing that he's shown us how to do. And I
Yeah.
think it's very relatable,
It's
not just to farmers, but anyone who's grown up on a farm understands what that purpose is. You need a
totally.
warehouse for these things, and there's a reason why they exist. If they
Yeah.
weren't valuable, you wouldn't see them all over farms when you drive out in the country.
Right. Oh, wow. Love that analogy, man. It's tripping me out now how I see that connection. And yeah, now it even makes more sense as to why my grandfather did it and how um yeah, don't steal the peas. And also I just thinking about the idea of maybe sometimes there's a bumper crop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um what is it, like a windfall, right? That then you place to store it, right? That bumper crop, back to your
And if you don't
analogy.
have enough grain bins, but you had a bumper crop or you expanded your holdings, what do you need to do? You go and buy another grain bin so
Right.
that you can fill up and preserve more for the next time that you need it. That's no different than, okay, it's time to go get another policy. We're going to increase the size of the family system. It's exactly the same.
That's so awesome. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
Yeah. It really is a good visual, but it's also very accurate and concise to what happens in a typical farming operation and really what happens with our money. It's just that people aren't looking at their money that way. So really what Nelson's done is he's unveiled kind of like a shadow around how people keep their finances in these little boxes, and they look at them in these individual little components, but they don't look at them in a holistic environment. And they're not looking at the flow of money. They're looking at, what do I have left over and how am I growing it? Rather than, how is it flowing through my life and how efficient is it? Can I make it more efficient so that I can have more to grow?
That is the mind-blowing idea, right?
Yeah. And none of that shows up in an illustration that you saw, did it, Troy?
No. Right. No.
You needed to look at an illustration, and Liz did a great job walking you through how it works and the mechanics.
Yeah.
But when it all comes down to it, is that what really matters?
Look, we all think that we should be paying only your fair share in taxes. It just so happens, I think your fair share is lower than probably what you're paying now. Well, we talk a little bit about that in our book, Keep Taxes Away from Your Wealth. You can get a copy and access to the bonuses by going to keeptaxesaway.com. That's keeptaxesaway.com. Head on over there and pick up a copy today.
No, that's right. That's not what really matters. Yeah, it's the day-to-day and the amount of interest that I've been paying all my life to things I never knew there was a choice, right? I never knew there was an alternative to it. And recapturing that is just, it's just like a new idea that never, how would it cross your mind? And that's why I want people to know about this, because like poor people who are going through their lives right now, just probably just, they don't know there's another way, a better choice. And if they started building some grain bins in their lives, they could just recapture all of that interest and it'd just be so much more peaceful. So yeah, it's real.
Love it.
Awesome.
Well, Troy, what would you share? What would you share with somebody who is, they're like you, somebody handed them a book or they've just randomly showed up on this podcast video and they are hearing this for the very first time. We just showed up in their feed. Yeah. What was it that you would want to share with that individual about this process or this concept that you think would be the most important thing that they need to know right now about delving deeper?
Okay. Yeah. I would say take the time to go deep with it and talk to somebody who knows. Don't take any preconceived ideas you may have heard about whole life or anything like that, because I probably had some of that in my background, and and put that aside for just a few moments and really start seeing the potential of what could be there, and talking to somebody is probably the best way to do it. But definitely your research, like if you don't read the book, I would say take an afternoon and go through it. And I read it like all the time. I got it playing in my car and every time I get a new insight. And it's, you gotta I would say to all my business owner friends, all my senior leaders that I work with, and all the people that work in my clients that I get to work with, like do a deep dive on this. This is not an investment. And I know, and sometimes maybe go, oh, I want to do investments. You do, and this will help you do investments better. And that's like, get that tailwind going for you, because and then if you think this is dumb, come talk to me, because but I really know that if you do the right research on this, it will absolutely get you what you want. It'll make you feel really good. It's going to give you a big future, your family a big future. And you might not even think about that part for now, but just it's going to help you more than anything. And I want everybody to know about this like yesterday. And so I'm building it into our system when we work with clients as a way of somehow getting this message across. And you can still invest in real estate and businesses and stocks or whatever thing you're interested in. And this is the way to
Inventory,
think about
equipment,
inventory.
marketing dollars, whatever your business needs. Yeah.
Right.
I was
Of
chatting
course.
with a guy today, awesome guy who's got a millwork business, cabinet installation business,
Yeah.
doing great. He's got some great top line revenue. Gross margins are, you know, greater than 25%. He's got a good team of people. He's doing really, really well. And, you know, we're talking about embracing this, you know, for his business. I had his accountant on, which was awesome too. So he made the accountant. He's actually in the middle of a shift. He says, I, I'm choosing a new accountant, but I won't work with anyone that hasn't read this book.
Oh, I love it.
So he made the accountant read the book before. And so he joined on the call
Wow.
today and he
Wow.
validated and confirmed everything I was saying, which was a lot of fun. It was a really good
Awesome.
meeting. But talking about, you know, inventory and capital cash flows running through, it's like, look, every time you have a job, you're going to have to go and pay for new cabinet doors and, you know, all the stuff that you need to do and install. Well, but the money comes in, you get a deposit. It doesn't immediately go out right away to go buy that stuff. You're waiting for permits or for this, and like the job site's got to be ready, you know. So like you have this period of time where money is sitting there, maybe not all of it, but a chunk of it. How can we optimize that at these, you know, if that's happening in this cycle throughout your business, month to month, how much of that can we control the energy and optimize it to do more for your family before it leaves the business? And that's an area where we can spend a lot of time with people, which is super fun for me because, you know, there's always something new to learn. And every time I get to meet with someone and I get a chance to look at, you know, look underneath the hood of what's going on in their financial life and their business, it's like, oh my God, like there's so many cool things that we can do here. I don't want to, you know, bamboozle you with all of them, but like, let's take a look at these two and let's see if we can optimize here. And if we can optimize here, then maybe we can add in other layers as we go. You got to do this, get practice, get some reps, get better. Boom, let's add something new. Do this, get better, add some reps, add practice. And it's just like you're like leveling up little areas of your life, adding little efficiencies along the way.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And that's what the coach, like that's what Elizabeth does, is like she takes us through step by step and just little things. And the coach is so valuable in this process. Like you can't do it without a coach, I don't think. Like you eventually want to do it's your bank, but I mean like you need your coach to guide you through it. So no, I love that. So.
Well, I appreciate that you shared that. You know, anyone getting started, you need to begin with the source material, Nelson's book. Speak to a coach, speak with someone who's actually doing it, not someone who says that they are and not really doing it. Show me someone doing this who's never taken a policy loan and never repaid it back, and they're not doing anything. Okay. But I also think that you really recognize that there is an education start, and don't try to circumvent or jump the gun and have someone explain it to you in 15 minutes, because you can't learn how to control capital in an efficient way for the rest of your life as a lifestyle in 15 minutes. And if you can do something that could completely change the direction of your whole family's financial picture, and that's going to cascade past your own life, isn't it worth taking a couple hours to start to figure out how to do that before you make a rash judgment? I think that's kind of how I would, you know, summarize maybe the way that you shared.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful way to say it. Yeah, yeah. And I also want to make the point that I'm a skeptic by nature, and so if it comes across here, because I'm pretty enthusiastic about it, be skeptical. Skepticism is healthy, right? Like it's a good thing. We don't want to fall for anything, right? And so be skeptical, but validate. Not cynical. Cynical is like I don't buy it anything, but skepticism is healthy, and it's to really validate this. And so if I'm going to leave a message to the people who I'm going to tell about this, don't take my word for it. Definitely do your own research, but do the proper research. Don't just go to some random brother-in-law or the internet or something. Yeah. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, I love that, which is great. Now, you know, Troy, 3 decades with the Dale Carnegie Organization, thousands of leaders that you've worked with directly, group environments, training platforms, the whole works, one-on-ones in businesses. The Dale Carnegie himself, he probably did attend some Halloween parties maybe in his youth, but I don't imagine that he often showed up wearing a cape. So while he might have thought of himself as a hero, a superhero in some degree, his legacy certainly, I would say, is evidence that he would be for a lot of people, and probably for yourself and certainly your business partner. So,
Sure.
given that today, you're sharing something that's really valuable to you, something that you have agreed you're going to continue to share because of its value and importance.
Hmm.
What would you say is who you most want to be a hero to?
Hmm. It's clearly my kids. Like, yeah, I want the legacy they see for me to, yeah, I want them to go as a hero. I was saying to my daughter, who's like in second year university right now, and uh, I was talking to her about this process again, and I said, like, Lucy, I don't want to bring it down, be a downer here, but I'm not going to be around forever. I really want you to understand this and use it to your full because I won't be here. And I saw a little tear come in her eye, kind of thing. I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize. I didn't mean to be that like sentimental and but it became clear that I want to leave her with this, and my other kids too, with this kind of
Mm,
uh, memory and storage so wealth and so that's who I want to be a hero to is them for sure, and maybe it sounds obvious but that's who it is, so yeah,
love
it's a
that.
good
That's
question.
amazing.
Yeah, okay.
Troy, how can people best get a hold of you if they want to learn more about the Dale Carnegie Organization and what you
Yeah.
guys do?
Yeah, well, we take care of Ontario and the Maritimes, but Dale Carnegie's available everywhere. So in Canada, wherever you are locally, go to dalecarnegie.com and you'll be hooked up with your local person, and they're all amazing. They're all friends of mine, and they will help you very much wherever you are. And so, yeah, dalecarnegie.com, and you'll get connected. But if you want a personal connection, just reach out to me, and I'll happily get you to them. So, yeah, that's it.
Amazing. And you can check out the show notes for some of those links. For those of you joining us today, you will see magically, poof, another video just popped up that says, oh my God, this is incredible content. Go ahead, click that right now and continue the journey of learning. Thanks for being with us today.